we've decided to share the ocean with Iran. We've given them the bottom half. We've damaged or sunk over 120 of their Navy ships, with battle damage assessments pending for many more. Their surface fleet is no longer a factor. Their submarines, they once had 11, are gone. Their military ports are crippled.
We continue to hunt and kill mine storage facilities and naval ammunition depots. We continue to hunt and kill afloat assets, including more than 120 vessels and 44 mine layers, and the pressure will continue.
20% of the world's oil moves through a waterway that is only 33 kilometers wide. Right now, the U.S. Navy doesn't just have ships nearby. They've already been there. They've already acted. Over 120 Iranian naval vessels damaged or sunk. Their submarines gone. All 11 of them. Their military ports crippled. Someone already made a decision, and that decision was this. We've decided to share the ocean with Iran. We gave them the bottom half. To understand what just happened, you need to understand what the Strait of Hormuz actually is. It is the single most important choke point on the planet. Every day, roughly 17 million barrels of oil pass through it. That's Saudi Arabia, Iraq, UAE, Kuwait, and Iran, all funneling their exports through one narrow passage. For Iran, it has always been their ultimate leverage card. Threaten the strait, threaten the global economy. It's a pressure valve they've kept their hand on for decades. But that calculation has now changed. In this video, we're going to break down exactly what the US Navy deployed, how they positioned it, what Iran had, and what Iran has left. And then we're going to look at 3 scenarios for what happens next. Let's get into it. The US Navy committed 2 carrier strike groups, both already positioned in the region before the operation began. The USS Abraham Lincoln and its escort destroyers were operating in the Arabian Sea. The USS Gerald R was stationed in the Red Sea. These weren't random positions. These were the 2 most strategically advantageous points for a simultaneous strike on the Iranian fleet, hitting from 2 directions at once, with no warning and no time to respond. The Tomahawk cruise missiles aboard the escort destroyers could reach any point in the region where Iranian vessels were operating. Both carrier groups were brought to full combat readiness. Each carrier air wing carried approximately 44 Fa-18 Super Hornets, the backbone of U.S. carrier aviation. That's roughly 88 Super Hornets across both carriers, plus additional F-35C Lightning IIs. On the escort destroyers, vertical launch cell hatches opened, and Tomahawks began firing, one after another, erupting from the cells in bursts of flame and smoke, arcing skyward, then leveling off and racing toward Iranian naval vessels and shore-based targets. Each missile was programmed with precise coordinates. The barrage continued until the fire mission was complete. In the air, pilots worked through target lists methodically. Lock on, fire, don't circle back, move to the next target. The mission was speed. Hit everything before the Iranians could disperse or take cover in port. The operation ran day and night, sortie after sortie, until the Iranian fleet ceased to exist as a fighting force. So what did Iran actually have going into this? On paper, Iran's naval doctrine was never about matching the US ship for ship. It was asymmetric. It was built on disruption, not direct confrontation. Fast attack boats that could swarm a larger vessel, mines laid across key shipping lanes, anti-ship missile batteries along the coast, and 11 submarines, their most survivable asset. That was the strategy. Deny, disrupt, bleed. But here's what the assessment says now. Their surface fleet, no longer a factor. Their submarines, all 11, gone. 44 mine-laying vessels, hunted and destroyed. Military ports, crippled. Naval ammunition depots, targeted and eliminated. The mine storage facilities are still being hunted. The pressure, according to U.S. assessments, will continue until the entire Iranian naval fleet is eliminated as a functional fighting force. So why didn't Iran fire back more aggressively? The answer is more strategic than you might think. Iran has always understood that a direct, symmetrical engagement with the U.S. Navy ends one way. What they didn't anticipate, or couldn't prevent, was the speed and simultaneity of the strikes. By the time the picture was clear, the fleet was already gone. If you're finding this analysis useful, subscribe and hit the bell. Every briefing on this channel cuts straight to the data. No noise. The next video is already in production. You don't want to miss it. Now here's where it gets more complicated, because this isn't just a US-Iran story. China is the single largest buyer of Iranian oil. Any prolonged disruption to the Strait or to Iranian export capacity hits Beijing directly. China has been watching this operation carefully, and in response to rising tensions in the region, China sent warships. Russia, too, has maintained a naval presence in the region. Neither country wants a US-dominated outcome in the Persian Gulf, and the markets have already started to price this in. Every time military activity spikes near the Strait of Hormuz, oil traders react within hours. A sustained disruption, or a full closure, would send prices to levels that haven't been seen in years. That matters not just for consumers at the pump. It matters for every government whose budget depends on stable oil imports. The US understands this leverage. So does Iran. So does China. The Strait is not just a waterway. It is a pressure point that connects military power to economic pain. And right now, every major power has their calculations running. So where does this go from here? 3 scenarios. And I'll give you my honest assessment of each. Scenario 1. The diplomatic exit. Iran quietly acknowledges the new reality. Back-channel negotiations open. The Strait stays functional. Iran accepts a degraded naval posture in exchange for sanctions relief or political off-ramps. This is the least dramatic outcome, and historically, it's happened before. Probability, moderate. Iran has incentive to stop the bleeding. Scenario 2. Controlled escalation. Limited skirmishes continue. Iran uses remaining asymmetric assets, drones, coastal missiles, proxy forces, to signal it hasn't surrendered. The US responds selectively, avoiding full land war. Both sides manage the temperature without full-scale conflict. This is the most likely short-term trajectory. Probability, high. Both sides have reasons to keep this below boiling point. Scenario 3. Full closure. Iran makes a final desperate move to close or mine the Strait. Global oil markets go into crisis. The US is forced into a much larger military response. Regional allies scramble. China and Russia face the decision of whether to intervene or stand aside. This is the scenario everyone is trying to prevent. Probability? Low, but not zero. And the consequences would be global. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a waterway, it is a trigger. 120 ships gone, 11 submarines gone, mine layers, ammunition depots, military ports, gone. The Iranian Navy that existed 3 weeks ago no longer exists. What fills that vacuum, diplomatically, militarily, economically, will define the next chapter of this conflict. And that chapter is being written right now. Subscribe for the next briefing. The situation is moving fast, and so are we.